Bluebeard. There was a man who had fine houses, both in town and country, a deal of silver and gold plate, embroidered furniture with coaches gilded all over with gold. This man was so unlucky as to have a blue beard, which made him so frightfully ugly, hey, what's wrong with the beard, that all the women and girls ran away from him. One of his neighbors, a lady of quality, had 2 daughters who were perfect beauties. He desired of her one of them in marriage, leaving her to choose which of the 2 she would bestow on him. They would neither of them have him, and sent him backward and forward from one another, not being able to bear the thoughts of marrying a man who had a blue beard. And what besides gave him the disgust and aversion was his having already been married to several wives, Downer, and nobody ever knew what became of them. Bluebeard, to engage their affection, took them, with the lady their mother and 3 or 4 ladies of their acquaintance, with other young people of the neighborhood, to one of his country seats, where they stayed a whole week. There was nothing then to be seen but parties of pleasure, hunting, fishing, dancing, mirth, because mirth is good, and feasting, which is also good. And nobody went to bed, but all passed the night rallying and joking with each other. Sounds like a good weekend. In short, everything succeeded so well that the youngest daughter began to think the master of the house not to have a beard so very blue, and that he was mighty civil gentleman. As soon as they returned home, the marriage was concluded. About a month afterwards, Bluebeard told his wife that he was obliged to take a country journey for 6 weeks at least, about affairs of very great consequence, desiring her to divert herself in his absence, to send for her friends and acquaintances to carry them into the country if she pleased, and to make good cheer wherever she was. Here, he said, are the keys to the 2 great wardrobes, wherein I have my best furniture, and all the silver and gold plate, which is not every day in use. These open my strong boxes, which hold my money, both gold and silver. These are caskets of jewels, and this is the master key to all my apartments. But for this little one here, it is the key to the closet at the end of the great gallery on the ground floor. Open all of them, go into every one of them, except the little closet, which I forbid you, and forbid it in such a manner, if you happen to open it, there's nothing but what you may expect from my just anger and resentment. She promised to observe very exactly whatever he had ordered, when he, having embraced her, got into the coach and proceeded on his journey. Her neighbors and good friends did not stay to be sent by the new married lady, so great was her impatience to see all the rich furniture of the house, not daring to come while her husband was there, because of his blue beard, which frightened them. They ran through all the rooms, closets, and wardrobes, which were all so fine and rich that they seemed to surpass one another. After that, they went up to the 2 great rooms, where was the best and richest furniture. They could not sufficiently admire the number and beauty of the tapestry, beds, couches, cabinets, stands, tables, and looking-glasses in which you might see yourself from head to foot. Some of them were framed with glass, others with silver, plain and gilded, the finest and most magnificent ever were seen. You're welcome. They ceased not to extol the envy and happiness of their friend, who in the meantime in no way diverted herself into looking upon all these riches, because of the impatience she had to go and open the closet to the ground floor. She was so much pressed by her curiosity, without considering that it was very uncivil to leave her company. She went down the little back staircase, and with such excessive haste that she had twice or thrice like to have broken her neck. Don't run downstairs. On being come to the closet door, she made to stop for some time, thinking upon her husband's orders, and considering what unhappiness might attend her if she were disobedient. But the temptation was so strong that she could not overcome it. She then took the little key and opened it, trembling, but could not at first see anything plainly, because the windows were shut. After some moments, she began to perceive that the floor was all covered over with clotted blood, on which lay the bodies of several dead women, ranged against the wall. These were the wives whom Bluebeard had married and murdered, one after another. Though she should have died for fear, and the key which she pulled back out of the lock fell out of her hand. After having somewhat recovered her surprise, she took up the key, locked the door, and went upstairs to her chamber to recover herself. But she could not. She was so much frightened. Having observed that the key of the closet was stained with blood, she tried 2 or 3 times to wipe it off, but the blood would not come off of it. In vain she did wash it, and even rub it with soap and sand. The blood still remained, for the key was magical, and she could never make it quite clean. When the blood was gone off from one side, it came again on the other. Bluebeard returned from his journey that same evening, and said he had received letters upon the road informing him that the affair he went about was ended to his advantage. His wife did all she could to convince him that she was extremely glad of his speedy return. Next morning he asked her for the keys, which she gave him, but with such a trembling hand that he easily guessed what had happened. "What?" he said. "Is not the key of my closet among the rest?" "I must certainly have left it above upon the table," she said. "Fail not," said Bluebeard. "Bring it to me presently." After several going backwards and forwards, she was forced to bring him the key. Bluebeard, having very attentively considered it, said to his wife, "How come this blood upon the key?" "I do not know," cried the poor woman, paler than death. "You do not know?" replied Bluebeard. "I very well know. You were resolved to go into the closet, were you not? Mighty well, madam. You shall go in, and take your place among the ladies you saw there." Upon this she threw herself at her husband's feet, and begged his pardon with all the signs of true repentance, vowing that she would never more be disobedient. She would have melted a rock, so beautiful and so sorrowful she was, but Bluebeard had a heart harder than any rock. "You must die, madam," he said, "and that presently." "Since I must die," answered she, looking upon him with her eyes bathed all in tears, "give me some little time to say my prayers." "I give you," replied Bluebeard, "half a quarter of an hour, but not 1 moment more." When she was alone, she called out to her sister, and said to her, "Sister Anne," for that was her name, "go up, I beg you, upon the top of the tower, and look if my brothers are not coming. They promised that they would come by today, and if you see them, give them a sign to make haste." Her sister Anne went up on top of the tower, and the poor afflicted wife cried out from time to time, "Anne, Sister Anne, do you see anyone coming?" And Sister Anne said, "I see nothing but the sun, which makes a dust, and the grass, which looks green." In the meanwhile, Bluebeard, holding a great saber in his hand, cried out as loud as he could bawl for his wife, "Come down instantly, or I shall come up to you." "One moment longer, if you please," said his wife, and then she cried out very softly, "Anne, Sister Anne, dost thou see anybody coming?" And Sister Anne answered, "I see nothing but the sun, which makes a dust, and the grass, which is green." "Come down quickly," cried Bluebeard, "or I will come up to you." "I am coming," answered his wife, and then she cried, "Anne, Sister Anne, dost thou see anyone coming?" "I see," replied Sister Anne, "a great dust, which comes on the side here." "Are they my brothers?" "Alas, no, my dear sister. I see a flock of sheep." "Will you come down?" cried Bluebeard. "A moment longer," said his wife, and then she cried out, "Anne, Sister Anne, dost thou see nobody coming?" "I see," she said, "two horsemen, but they are yet a great deal way off." "God be praised," replied the poor wife joyfully. "They are my brothers. I will make them a sign, as well as I can, for them to make haste." Then Bluebeard bawled out so loud that he made the whole house tremble. The distressed wife came down and threw herself at his feet, all in tears, with her hair about her shoulders. "This signifies nothing," says Bluebeard. "You must die." Then, taking a hold of her hair with one hand, lifting up the sword with the other, he was going to take off her head. The poor lady, turning about to him, and looking him with her dying eyes, desired him to afford her one little moment to recollect herself. "No, no," he said. "Recommend thyself to God." And just as he was about to strike, at the very instant there was such a loud knocking at the gate that Bluebeard made a sudden stop. The gate was opened, and presently entered two horsemen, who, drawing their swords, ran directly to Bluebeard. He knew them to be his wife's brothers, one a dragoon, and the other a musketeer, so that he ran away immediately to save himself. But the two brothers pursued so close that they overtook him before he could get to the steps of the porch, when they ran their swords through his body and left him dead. The poor wife was almost dead as her husband, and had not strength enough to rise to welcome her brothers. Bluebeard had no heirs, and so his wife became mistress of all his estate. She made use of one part of it to marry her sister Anne to a young gentleman who had loved her a long while, another part to buy captain's commissions for her brothers, and the rest to marry herself to a very worthy gentleman who made her forget the ill time she had passed with Bluebeard.